I'm off to England. I'm leaving the land. It's just too hard, can't do wildlands anymore. Stupid pump not working.
I think sadly we have a problem in that we've actually run out of water even though the well is not empty, so it's all a bit depressing.
We've probably got enough left in the IBCs now for 2 more days of watering sparingly, and then it's all gone, and when it's all gone there's nowhere else to get water from, so everything's going to die, which is very sad. The trees will probably be the last to die because they've got nice deep roots. But yeah, we'll lose all of our vegetables and salads and corn and flowers. That's very sad. So it's kind of a race against time to try and get it fixed.
In July 2021, with the increase in travel restrictions caused by Brexit and the pandemic, we decided to buy off-grid land in Portugal to live a more sustainable lifestyle.
Follow along with our journey as we turn our beautiful but derelict land into our very own slice of off-grid heaven. Wildlands.
So if you go back about 6 months, you may remember, if you've seen the video, this is the back of the shade house. We've got 4 IBCs which are joined together by a big thick pipe, and at the time it was the first time we'd done any off-grid plumbing. So the pipe is under here, so you can see the pipe here. And the IBCs that we got at the time had non-standard outlets here, so when we went to the pump shop they couldn't actually source the fittings. So between myself and the pump shop we came up with this stepping system, and it was all attached up. We've been using them for 6 months, but they've all started leaking now. So now that we've been here such a while, we've got a better system. So I'm going to pull off this old system, and then later on today I'm going to install a new system. So let me show you that. So these are the bits I'm pulling off. And the problem is that these were glued into here, and then a lot of silicone, probably more silicone than was required to try and keep it sturdy. But I think with the pressure and the weight of the water and then the sun, even though they've been covered, this PVC glue has gone very brittle. So these are going to be closed. Assuming I can close them. So I've drilled all the 4 new holes in the IBCs, and then what I've got is these fittings which are T-bars. If you unscrew these, you can see they've got a little blue grommet in, so hose goes in here, that goes on there, you tighten it up and it pulls it all right to the edge. So I've taken off all the fittings off these ones, and then these screw in to the holes on the IBC, and then I'm going to seal them with silicone, and then I'm going to give that quite a good few hours to dry, and then I'm going to put some extra silicone around, and then the 4 T-bars will be joined up with the hose that I'll cut to the right length, and then at both ends I'm going to have a tap fitting so we can use it for watering, and then I'm going to attach the taps to a stand so there's no strain pulling on the T-bars to cause leaks, and all being well, that should be our IBC issue resolved here. So I've also got a bit of sandpaper. I'm just going to lightly sand round it to give the silicone a good purchase, because this is quite shiny plastic. The silicone has a tendency to peel off. Just ready to get rid of the rough surface. So 1 done, 3 to go. So that's the old fittings that I took off earlier, but you can see the logic of the new fittings, which is basically the same system but with much smaller T-bars using normal hose, because they're drilled into holes that are screwed in. It's not going to come out. And these big ends here were a bit difficult to fit and a bit of a learning curve, so they're gone out with the old, in with the new, eh?
I'm off to England. I'm leaving the land. It's just too hard. Can't do wildlands anymore. Stupid pump not working. No, not really. I'm only going for a few days. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 6. Well, actually, I woke up at 5 because little Bella Coco decided that it was time to chew my feet. And then had a little bit more sleep. And now we're off driving into town where I have to get a train. And the train's 2.5 hours, and then I have to hang around for a little bit in Lisbon. And then I'm going to get a plane, and then I have to get a coach, and then I have to get a tube, and then I'll be in my hotel in London. I'm off to England to run our club, which we do once every couple of months, which is our main source of income. Usually I don't have to go, and I have a manager in London who does it for me so that I can stay in Portugal, but she can't make this one. She's on holiday in Scotland, so it's down to me, which is kind of cool actually, because although the travelling's a bit rough, running the club night itself is fun. And they're not having a heat wave there anymore. That's all done. So it's going to be 23 in the day, or 25 max, which is going to be lovely. Poor old Dom's going to have to do all of the watering, cooking, cleaning and all that stuff. Look after 3 cats and a dog. Although Rosie will help you, won't she?
6 chickens.
And 6 chickens, yeah, I forgot the chickens. And you've got to do it all in a heat wave. Yeah, poor timing. Can't be helped. And you boys? What's your plan today? I'm going back to bed. When we get back home, might have an ice pouch. I'm going to chase things around. Chase the little kitten. We have a nice game. I like my Uncle Leo. He plays with me. We've been having a bit of a mare for the last 4 days. As you know, the pump stopped working, and then we got it repaired, and then it worked, and then it stopped working again. In the meantime, we got a much bigger pump because we wanted a bigger pump anyway, and it was good to have backup, so we did that. Dom managed to get it all plumbed in, and it worked briefly, and then it stopped working. And we've just had 4 days of that, really, trying to figure out why it's not working. Replacing parts, we've replaced everything apart from the big pipe going up the hill. So the pump's been replaced, the on-off valve that goes in the well has been replaced, the pipe that goes from the well, the intake pipe, all of that's been replaced, and it's still not working. So Dom was working with Paul and Mickey. Thanks very much, guys, for helping us out with that. And in the heat and everything, and it was just repeated trying things. So let's try putting the end in a bucket, or let's try draining out the whole of the black pipe that takes ages, and then filling up the intake pipe with water before it goes in the well, and running that. And it was just, I think it was about 6 hours yesterday of farting around with it, and still nothing, still not working. We think now it's probably just the problems with the pump have all started when the level of the water went down. There's less than a foot of water in the bottom of our well now, and at the bottom there's sediment, silt, plants and so on. So the next thing we're going to try is cleaning out the well, which would be fun because people have got to go down in it on a ladder, and we have no idea what might be at the bottom of the well. We've had, luckily, enough water in our IBCs to carry on watering, but the more concerned we got, the longer it took for the pump to get fixed. The more sparing we were with the water to try and eke it out, so they haven't been getting quite as much as they needed, but some. We've probably got enough left in the IBCs now for 2 more days of watering sparingly, and then it's all gone. And when it's all gone, there's nowhere else to get water from. The van can only hold 70 litres at a time, which lasts us a week of van use, so you can't really take it out there. So everything's going to die, which is very sad. The trees will probably be the last to die because they've got nice deep roots. But yeah, we'll lose all of our vegetables and salads and corn and flowers. That's very sad. So it's kind of a race against time to try and get it fixed, because hopefully the problem can be solved. But if it is a matter of the well just not having enough water in it and that's affecting it somehow, there's nothing we can do until it rains, which is, you know, September, October time. But such is life, you know. If it all dies, then we'll just be better prepared next year. We'll have more water storage, or, I don't know, yeah, more water storage. Fill it all up in the spring when there's lots of water around. That's probably the way forward.
So I've got walking cam on, makes a change. I'm just walking down the land, so pump, what a nightmare. So I didn't film yesterday, but I've got our friend Mickey staying on the land in his T4, and Paul, who you met briefly in previous video, helping me on the cabin build. Paul came over to carry on with the cabin build, but we decided to go down to the pump and see what we could solve between us. The long and short of it was that we were down there probably for nearly 10 hours on and off, and we were basically going through every single possibility as to why we're not getting water. So we followed all the troubleshooting, we went on Google and YouTube and looked at loads of other potentials. So I think the answer, sadly, is that the well, although it's not empty, is just too shallow, and we're getting a vortex because we saw online that where we've got our valve on the end of the pipe that goes into the well water, you're supposed to ideally have 2 to 3 inches below the valve, 2 to 3 inches minimum above it to stop a vortex. And then the vortex causes air bubbles, and the green pipe that comes up from the well and connects to the pump is filling up with air over time. So we know there's no problem with the pump because we've got 2 pumps and they're both doing exactly the same thing. So we've checked all the pipe work from the well all the way up to the top of the land, and anywhere where we've got an elbow or a join, we've dismantled those to make sure there's no blockage. So the pipe work is fine. So the only thing that's really changed in the 6 months that we've been using the pump is the level of the well. So I think sadly we have a problem in that we've actually run out of water even though the well is not empty. So it's all a bit depressing. So the solution, if you can call it a solution, is to learn from our mistake, which was partly protracted by the fact that the small pump, as you know from previous videos again, had a few problems. So that was a way being repaired, and while it was about way being repaired, we couldn't collect any water, and that coincided with the heat wave, and obviously heat wave means drier land, plants needing more water. So it's just a combination of heat wave draining the well quicker for the time of year, pump being out of action, so we're in a bit of a pickle really. So I think we just have to accept that we probably won't have enough water to keep the garden alive through the summer, which is a bit depressing, but there's nothing we can do about it, so being depressed isn't going to help. So the pump does run for a little bit, so we're going to have to run it when we can and then sit with the pump to make sure that it doesn't run out of water, which is bad for the engine. And then at least we know, so next year we know we need to get water storage much quicker. We need to look at other solutions, like maybe getting a large water vat put in or built, or maybe putting IBCs at the halfway point so we've got more storage. But there's not a lot we can do about it, so there's no point in being sad. So I'm down at the pump, going to start that up and sit here, and then Mickey's at the top and he's going to swap the pipes round, assuming we even have enough water to fill up one whole IBC. So all a bit sad. So this is the new pump that I don't think I've shown you before, that my mum very kindly got us to get us out of a pickle while the other pump was being repaired. So this green pipe, we've got 2 of these pipes because we made the presumption that one of the problems could be that this pipe had a hole in it. So both pipes are doing the same thing. So what happens when the pump is on, the water comes up here, coming out of the well and into the pump, and then it's getting a build up of air which builds up gradually, and eventually the level of the water drops and then it can't suck. And we've tried priming this pipe, which you don't need to do, so let's take the pipe out of the water and then filling it up so there's no air bubbles, but that didn't help, or if it did, it only helped briefly. And you can see, if you look down there, the well is very empty, so there is plenty of water at the bottom, but you can see the bottom of the well. And I don't know if you can see, but if I pan up where that line of plants is, That's how much the well has dropped in the last 4 weeks, and that's been further protracted, as I said earlier, by the fact that we've had the heat wave that most people have had around the world. So we would have expected the well to be at this level in the middle of August, and it's actually at this level in the middle of July. So the first thing you have to do when you start one of these pumps is at the top it has a little cap, like a filler cap, which this is the water reservoir, and this needs priming. It is self-priming, so this black pipe that's coming in is going all the way up the top of the land, and it is full of water, so this is running back this way due to the gravity pressure. So you have to just undo this and check that some water comes out the top like that, which I don't know if you can see, but that's coming out, so that's already primed. So the next thing to do is to start said pump. So you can see this gauze section, that's what goes in the well, and the gauze is designed to stop these bits of leaf and algae going inside the pump. But inside here there's a valve like a door that opens and closes, and what's actually happening is because the pump can't get enough pressure, it can't open the door unless you fill up this entire pipe with water, which is when you're on your own, missing not being here and not having my friends down here to help, is not really possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off, which I've done about 20 times this week, so it's getting a bit tedious, and then I have another end which came with the first pump, which doesn't have this brass fitting or the valve inside. It's basically just a big version of this, and I think that will help it suck. But being very clever, I've left it at the top of the land even though I meant to bring it down, so I've got to walk all the way up the top, collect that. At least I'm getting plenty of exercise. Yesterday I think I went up and down the land about 8 times. It was completely knackered. Certainly hard living off grid. So, with the magic of YouTube, I've walked up, walked down, now really knackered, and what I forgot was this. So that's a strainer, which doesn't have any kind of valve in it, unlike the other one. So it requires less pressure to suck because it hasn't got the valve that it needs to open and close. So I'm going to fit that and see if the green pipe will get enough pressure to prime itself, and see where we go from there. So that's that one off, and then this is going to go in here. Just need a Jubilee clip to put on that end. So I've just wrapped a bit of this cord around it as a temporary thing, so this is now wedged in, and now I'm going to drop it in the water, and I'm going to start the pump, see if it primes the green pipe. So long and the short is it does not. So what we were doing yesterday, we're having to remove the green pipe, remove the black pipe, so that all the water from the top of the land floods down the black pipe, and starting from scratch. And as we're in a heat wave again, so we've had 2 days off, back into heat wave. It was over 30 when I came down. It's 10:15 now, and we're not allowed to run a pump after 11 due to the fire risk. So I'm going to give up today and then come down in the morning much earlier, because obviously I had to get up early today to drop Missy at the train station. We do have a bit of water left at the top, so give up for today, come back tomorrow, prime both the pipes and try and get the pump to run for a good 2 or 3 hours and get some water. If not, we'll just have to accept failure on the waterfront. Morning, and another day at the pump. It's becoming all a bit tedious now. So this is the new pump again. After what we showed you the other day, what we've got to do today is we've got to take the black pipe off and let 500 litres of water out of there back into the well, so that we can clear any airlocks. And then the green pipe, you remember I put my large end on, we've got to take that off, sort out these bolts here, make sure they're tight, and then the only way we've found to get the pump to function is to prime this green pipe, which you're not supposed to have to do in a normal situation, but we found that if we fill it with water, then there's more suction to get it going, because we're so desperate for water now. We've got to get some water up the land because we've got 1 day's water left, so it's all looking a bit precarious. All good fun down in pump world, but it really does bring home what it's like to not live in a house where you've got unlimited water just at the turn of a tap. So when you have this kind of problem. So Paul, who you saw on last week's video when he was helping building the foundation of the bathroom, he reckons, having done some research, that the problem we're having, and the reason we're having it with both pumps, is that because the well is so low that the pressure is reduced and we're getting a vortex. And a vortex is basically where the water is turning, creating tiny bubbles, and that's why we're getting bubbles in this pipe, which are then collecting here, and then eventually the level of water is lower than the level of the airlock, and then the pump is not sucking in water, no water at the top of the land. If we can solve that, problem solved, albeit maybe temporarily while the well continues to drop in level due to the drought. If we can't solve that, then we're out of water, essentially. So then all our plants will die. So all uplifting stuff, aside from the fact that these pipes Mickey and I have taken on and off about 20 times, it's all very tedious, so it's not much fun on the wildlands. And the green pipe, which is the one that's sucking the water out of the well, got to put the original valve on, which is the one that Missy was mentioning, that's got like a door in it. And the idea being is the door is one way, so it sucks the water up, but when you turn the pump off, the water doesn't then drop back into the well. So that's what's supposed to stop it needing priming. However, because it's filling up with air, we're having to prime it manually. We've tried it without the valve. You see Mickey's using his painted in beer bottle method here, which is a professional method of getting your valves on the pipe. We have to heat it up with a blowtorch so that the pipe is flexible enough to get the valve back on. And I think Mickey and I have done this about 10 times, so it's a rather boring process. We're not going to do it again. It's the man with the ladder. Morning, Paul.
Morning, mate. I got the bits thing.
Did you say you got beer?
No, bits. Basically what this is it's a little, because the water level is low, what's happening is the water, where the pipe is sucking the air through tiny little vortexes, which is then coming up into this suction pipe, because that operates on a vacuum where the air is being forced, or the force is going this way, it's pushing that way, it's sucking that way. And what I think is happening is there's little vortexes because of the closeness to the surface of the water. So because this has got a diameter at least twice as wide as the inlet, that should help prevent vortices from clearing. But what we need to do is have it so that it's flat in, so that it's operating efficiently. So we'll need to put some holes in the bottom once we've got it set in place, get down the well, bang a bit of rebar in so that then it can be mounted, and then that should hopefully stop the silt from coming up through the bottom. It should also stop the vortices from appearing at the top. That's the theory. Whether or not it works or not.
So as Paul's explained it to me, the vortex needs to be vertical, or the green pipe. So we wanted to sit in the middle, which is the deepest point, but not be on the mud. So we're tying it to a hollow brick using wire, which will then also weight it down. So what we're doing now is trying to get as much of the bubbles and airlocks out the green suction pipe as possible, so that we can then drop the vortex into the water. And if we can get rid of all the bubbles, the suction will be greater and the pump should work. That's a theory anyway. Thing with trying is where the tap is here. You've got the elbow and then stepping it down to a 1-inch pipe, and then another elbow, a tap, and stepping it down to a hosed pipe. It's greatly reducing the pressure, so we're going to take all that off and use the black pipe straight there with a straight join straight into the IBCs. Slight bad news is Paul and I forgot, my fault, that we have a cardboard box next to the IBCs which has a wasp's nest in it. Paul dropped the pipe on it and he got stung on the hand, and I got stung here on the face. So, all very exciting. We've joined up the black pipe now. You can see it's going in the top IBC.
It's running, pump's back on, green pipe is full.
Cool, we've got a dribble coming so far. Speeding up, I'm going to climb up the ladder and see how much is coming out. The air coming out. You won't be able to hear that. There's lots of bubbles coming out. We've emptied the pipe, so it's going to fill up 500 litres worth of pipe to get up the land.
Our green pipe is still full, so we'll keep an eye on it for the next few minutes and see what it does.
Okay, I'm going to monitor how much water we get on time. So it's 10 to 1. This was the line that we were at. We've got a much greater pressure coming out the black pipe rather than the elbow and stepping down to the hose pipe. That's super speedy. I like that. We might have a solution. So it's got really high pressure. It's doing about 100 litres a minute at the moment.
So far this end it all looks really good.
So that's amazing. So each one of the bars on the IBCs is about 200 litres, although the bottom bar is slightly lower. So we've done about 200 litres in a couple of minutes. Whereas before it would take an hour to do one IBC. So it could be a solution, even if it's a hassle with the pump at the bottom, draining it and bleeding it, if we can get lots of water so quickly. What a result. So that's the bottom IBC and the top IBC nearly full in 10 minutes. So it was taking us an hour to do about 1,000 litres, maybe 900 litres, and with the holes we've probably done nearly 2,000 litres in 10 minutes. It's going to save us a lot of fuel as well, so all's well that ends well. Earlier in the video I was fitting these. Luckily I've done extra coats of silicone, so now all that's left to do is to measure from here to here between the T-bars, cut the hose to length, put the fittings on, screw them on, and then while we're on a roll we're then going to cut another piece of the thick black pipe join it on, stick it straight in here and see how long it takes us to fill up with 4,000 litres, which if we can do that, I'll be a very happy chappy. And I'm going to have to ring Missy, who's in London, and tell her the good news that all our plants do not have to die. So those T-bars stand a bit of hose, and then they have a little grommet which sticks into the hose like that, and then that's here, so the grommet is here, and when you tighten it up it locks it shut. So I've just got to cut these to the right length, stick said grommets in, and Bob's your auntie. So you can see T-bars all done, hoses connected, tap on the end. Don't know if these black T-bars, these bits here, are tight enough yet, we'll find out in a minute. So we've got 4,000 litres here, all completely empty due to the leak. So we've got a lot of water, it's very good news. First IBC's nearly full, and although they're daisy chaining, the amount of water coming in is a lot more than the amount of water that these little T-bars can let in. So we're going to move the black pipe along, but when we're watering our plants, obviously because we'll be using the hose, they'll all empty out equally. So it's all looking very, very good. Nearly swore with excitement there. So that was certainly a challenging week, and one of several challenging weeks in the last month or so here on the wildlands. But I'm so pleased that we got that resolved. So we've got plenty of water now, and we can get 3,000 to 4,000 litres a day, which is way more than we need. So I've been finishing off the daisy chaining of the IBCs, and then we can get those filled up over the course of the next few days. And it's amazing how quick time goes when you're hard at work sorting things out like the pump, as we have done this week, as Missy is back tonight. So the whole time she's been away I've been working on the pump, so I know she's going to be overjoyed that her plants are given a stay of execution and we can carry on watering for as long as the well has some water in it. So I want to thank Paul and Mickey for their help. Couldn't have done it without you guys, so thanks very much. So thanks to you guys too for watching, following our journey, and as always, leave us a comment. Love to hear from you, even if it's just to say hello, and hope you all have a great week and that you're surviving the heat waves, if you have one still, as well as us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it means a lot to us, and you can stay in touch with our journey and not miss any future episodes. So hit the old like button now. Thanks for watching, that's all, see you next week, ciao!